Recording, streaming, everything's live now. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. We are doing kind of a last minute sort of scheduled sync focus hangout today. I do apologize for that. My head has been obviously a little wrapped up with launching the Sync Match app, getting a lot of you guys onboarded there, making sure that everything's working. And so it's just been a little bit hectic and crazy the last couple of days and weeks, really. I mean, months. Who am I kidding? But anyways, we've definitely got the train running now. The founders rate has expired as of midnight last night, and we've got a great number. I think we have like 450 producers actively on the platform now, uploading music. We almost had 1,000 tracks uploaded in June, which is crazy. So I'm wondering if we're gonna break that record this year. Hopefully, that'd be great. But it's great to see you guys jumping on the platform, uploading your tracks, getting some meaningful results, similar tracks, anything that you guys can get that'll basically help you understand where you fit into this business. That's at least the goal, and I hope you guys are taking advantage of that. But today, we are going to talk about, obviously, a little bit more on the mindset of sync licensing. Can you guys believe we're now officially halfway through 2025? I don't know how many of you guys can remember what it was like in January of this year, only 6 months ago. Many of us obviously high and excited about the new year and making a determination that focusing on music and sync was going to be something we absolutely maintained our consistency on throughout the entire year. Some of you have been absolutely doing that. I can see, in the track uploads that you guys are doing every single month and showing up for, these kinds of calls, which I know last minute, some of you guys aren't gonna be able to make it today. That's on me today. But also our mastermind groups and all of our hangouts and stuff. And so it's interesting. And maybe this is going to be hopefully enlightening for a lot of you that can now look back on 6 months to go like, what does 6 months feel like, right? To go from what you were saying and feeling in January to what you're saying and feeling now. There's maybe a difference. Maybe some of you are more motivated. That's great. Some of you, probably a lot of you, are less motivated or really, you've really diminished your motivation in terms of your focus and excitement and dedication to it because the New Year's buzz wore off, right? And so now just life took over and life gets noisy, life gets distracting, other things come in, other things start to take our focus away. And so it's always this question of how do you get back on the horse, right? How do you get your head back in the game? How do you do it? And my suggestion from the very beginning of the year has been to start small, right? Not to start big and ambitious and think you've got to do, 10 tracks a month. If you're nowhere near doing that right now, it doesn't make any sense to go like from 0 to 100 instantly, because that's the fastest path you'll have to burning out and not being able to continue on in this industry. So that's why we have this 2 track a month requirement. Like that's the bare minimum I'm asking for you guys that are going to be participating with us and continue along in Sync Focus to basically hit every single month. So 2 tracks, that's 1 track every 2 weeks. I don't think that's impossible. I don't think that's undoable. I think even with the most hectic, busy schedule, I think all of you guys can figure out a way to eke out a couple of hours here and there in your week to at least get 2 tracks done every single month. And it would be better if you started your year saying, all right, I'm just going to do 2 tracks every single month. And then by December, you still are doing just 2 tracks every single month, rather than the producer that's like, all right, I'm doing 5 tracks a month. I'm doing 10. I'm doing 20. I've seen some people make that, case. They think they're going to get to 20 tracks a month. And then by July, crickets, 0. Nothing's being uploaded. They're not even doing music anymore. And I think a lot of it comes down to that. It's like you have to kind of start you have to start where you're at. And sometimes that's at a much slower pace. It doesn't mean that you won't eventually go faster or that you won't be able to be more productive later. But you don't go from bouncing a basketball today to the pros tomorrow. Like it just doesn't work that quickly. You've got to spend some time in the fundamentals. You got to spend some time on like, all right, just what can I do today to get a little bit better at my game? Whether it's producing and putting together a drum beat, learning a new synth or a new plugin a little bit better, getting familiarized with a new sound library, listening. Hopefully, a lot of you guys are doing a lot of that with the production music, with the Sync Match tracks that you guys are listening to. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you guys how much more prepared I am to give you guys better feedback just by basically developing this app, just because I have clicked on every single link that's on the app. You guys are listening to probably the tracks that are interesting to you and the genres that are like close to what you're doing. I've listened to all of it. I've listened to every single, the thousands and thousands of tracks that have been on the app. I'm quality controlling, but also I want to keep my head in the game. I really want to know what gets placed, what does it sound like, and I can tell you guys that for those of you that are actually doing that on the app, you will be making new choices in your music that you probably won't even be conscious of. You'll just have all this great, high quality, proven, most important part of that, proven production music that does get placed. And if you create Spotify playlists with these tracks and you just kind of keep them as you're, commuting and working and going to the gym, whatever, you're just going to have better options in your back pocket. You're going to have some options that you'll basically be able to choose from now because you've been listening to this music every single day. That's really how we get better and how we kind of continuously evolve our skills and talents, is we're basically just pulling from our quote unquote training data that we've listened to throughout our entire lives. And so if you're spending a lot of time listening to high quality production music in your genre and you're just sort of like, oh yeah, you'll start to consciously and subconsciously notice things, how tracks transition, what kind of vibe they have, what emotions they include, what their instruments are doing, how they transition, how they start, how they stop, how they get bigger during their choruses, what elements are being added to make things bigger. You just spend a lot of time listening, and that's something that we can all do every single day for whatever we're doing, commuting, going for a walk, taking care of our errands, dropping the kids off at school or at, sports practice, all that kind of stuff. We will always have time throughout the day to listen to great high quality music. So one way or another, keeping your head in this game at a consistent level is way more powerful than going to the moon immediately and then burning out. And that's what I hope you guys are taking from at least what you've experienced so far with Sync Focus for the first half of this year. So we've kind of touched a little bit on the mindset stuff for those of you that are either on the Zoom call here or in YouTube land. You guys have any particular questions about mindset, about motivation, about burnout, about any of that kind of stuff? I'll be happy to talk with you, hang out, give you some of my insights or advice if I possibly can. But otherwise, I just want to spend some time today listening to some of your guys' music. We're going to prioritize those of you that I've not given a review to, because I just want to make sure that those of you that are part of Sync Academy here in the Sync Focus program officially get a little bit of attention and love. So we're going to basically just start with your guys' tracks. We're going to start from the bottom this time again and go through some of the names that we haven't quite listened to yet. So anyways, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and just listen to some music today, and I'll give you guys some insights as to what I think could make it maybe more licensable, if it already is licensable, what is already licensable about it. So this will be interesting to kind of jump into some of these tracks and give you some thoughts. So let's go ahead and just jump in. This track is not found. Let's try your other one. Let's see. Looks like those tracks might have been removed. We'll go ahead and just launch your new ones. Maybe these ones are up. Oh, maybe they're all down, huh? Bummer. Well, that one didn't work out. We'll maybe try next month. John, let's see if you got a track I can click on here. Looks like I can. Let's take a listen. Fairly short one. It's only a minute long. Let's see. So it's definitely going in a direction that I'd call, on our app, on the Sync Match app, we'd probably put this in more classical. So you're kind of going into, it's not a big orchestral trailer cue. It's more just like, kind of like stripped down, just a couple of orchestral elements. First thing is this needs to be a lot louder. I know some of you guys on YouTube land maybe can't even hear that one. And there might be also audio issues as well, but there's definitely a volume issue here right off the bat. This is just way too quiet, so you really have to get much more aggressive on your mastering and turning up your plugin or your tracks. But This one definitely is kind of like I can understand where you're trying to go, but you got to be very careful with kind of classical, stripped down orchestral pieces that you're not trying to make score music. And this is definitely feeling like it's trying to become like score music, like it would fit in the background of a film, a scene or something like that. If you're going to do classical music, those of you who are on Sync Match, you kind of maybe if you listen to some of this music, classical music, and most of what's getting placed there, it's going to be either in kind of like tension, like really kind of getting you on the edge of your seat, and think of like a quartet, like with a lot of sharp pizzicato strings. Dun, 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 dun. That's huge. That gets placed in a lot of reality shows. So that gets placed. You could also do some quirky, playful, kind of comedic styles with some pizzicato strings and plucks and that kind of thing. You can go in that direction. But kind of like the big dramatic cinematic feel like this doesn't really play well with the classical arrangements. So there's basically a couple of styles that really works well with classical compositions, and this probably just isn't one of them. So if you want to go in this direction, I would definitely listen to tracks that are getting placed in the classical lane, maybe neoclassical. Probably maybe there's a lot of albums that get released under this kind of neoclassical and newly produced neoclassical stuff. But you probably need to up the obviously the volume, the production quality for sure needs to come up quite a bit. Sometimes you can include drums on those. Sometimes you don't necessarily need to if they're kind of stripped down orchestral pieces, but you got to kind of pick and choose, I guess, where you really want to go. But best advice I'd give for you, John, is just to go listen to a lot of classical or neoclassical tracks that are getting placed. And obviously, doing your own research, finding your own libraries, you can do that. Sync Match, it's there in front of you with the Spotify links immediately. And you know that the links you're going to be clicking on are the ones that have been proven to be placed. So I think there's nothing better than that. So for what it's worth, definitely take advantage of that if you haven't done so already. But thank you for submitting and appreciate it. All right, Gavin, next up. And let's see what Gavin's got going on. Just track 2. So we got to work on our track titles as well, guys. We got to make sure. And I know this is probably just you're brand new at, or you not brand new, but this is probably maybe a freshly created track, and so you haven't done that. But that's one of the reasons why we included that also in your tag match results on the app. Is like we give you those track titles to help you. I'm curious, all those of you that are using it, if you can let me know either in the chat, YouTube, or here on Zoom. Have you guys used those track title suggestions yet? Are they useful? Have they not been useful? I'm open to tweaking them and improving them, but I'm curious if that's kind of part of this that's been useful for you guys, that, when you come up with all this great work and then track 2, it might be helpful basically to have some entity to kind of help you create those creative track titles. But let's take a listen. Really cool track. I like that one a lot. That was very well crafted. I love the progression. It's building, the edit points, a lot of very licensable stuff in here for sure. I can tell you very quickly how to make this more licensable. One of the first things, I guess there would be just 3 main notes. And I think with these 3 notes, you're immediately in a much more licensable position. Number 1, we need to add a bit more low-end energy, particularly to this middle section and definitely to the last section. So you started off the track great, progressing it, but as we move to this next section, more bass presence, maybe some more some kind of consistent kick drums or something that just kind of gives it a little bit more of a little bit more of a beat, a little bit more energy pushing and kicking this track forward for sure to lift it up. Like you do have a nice little lift of energy, but I don't think it's enough. I think you need to lift it up more, and even here lift it up a bit higher. With that being said, the second note is there's a bit of a brightness to this mix. There's a lot of, these kind of high pianos. You got almost like bell sounds, kind of chimes in here. You got to realize this is a tension track for sure, and so tension is going to be always under the surface, meaning it's going to be underneath dialogue, underneath voiceover. It's going to be under somebody else kind of taking the foreground. So what you'll find with a lot of the tracks that are in this tension world is they're a little bit more muted, a little bit more dulled in terms of the high frequency range. So you can keep everything as is. I don't think it's too busy. I don't think it's too intense. But you definitely want to make sure that you're not putting a lot of frequency information where the human voice is, particularly the female voice. If it's a lot of high frequency stuff, it might be competing and stomping with actors and narrators that are speaking on camera and in a scene, okay? So basically it's like the entire mix just needs to be much more low-end friendly and less high-end friendly. So basically you kind of invert your mix focus if you can do that, right? Then the last note is just, I love this, like, you have the little pause before you break in here. I think the strings by themselves is not necessary after listening to tons of music like this. Basically, I'll tell you what all these licensable tracks would have done. I'll show you. No strings right here. Just would have been a zoom, silence, and then... So you would have come in right back here. So I think it's 117 when the piano comes in. So basically you would just have a zoom, and then a little swell in, boom, maybe have a little low end thud, something just a little bit of an echo reverb, kind of like somebody stomping the ground, and then let the music come right back in here to grow into this last section. So having the strings by themselves probably would actually get in the way of this particular track getting placed. Usually they're going to just want a clean end to this section, and if they need to get into the next section, they can definitely do that. So very quick, easy fix for you there, but definitely licensable. You're going in a very, very licensable direction. I would just continue going down this path. But again, just remember, for all of you guys that are making tension, minimal music, any music that's really primarily focused to be in the background of scenes, get out of the high frequency range. You really don't want to put a lot of your mix and your attention there. It's, you can mute things, you can put some EQ filters on it, or use different instruments that are just not as bright and tingy and pingy. You want it to be a little bit more subdued, a little bit more like kind of thuddy, and a little bit more in that mid and low range. That's kind of where you want to really focus your music. But excellent work. Really, really cool. And thanks for sharing that, Gavin. All right. Let me do Hans's track, and then I did get a request from Norm. I saw that, Norm. You want to go to the middle. I might give some middle people some love today, too. But let me see if I can get one of these to load up before we get going here. All right, both links. We'll see what pops up first, if anything. Okay, we got one here. All right, let's take a listen to Crimson Tempest. Very cool, very dramatic, heavy track. And I do apologize. I know it's sometimes rude to skip through people's tracks, but for longer tracks, I do need to kind of just get a sense of what's happening in here, so we don't listen to the full track. But I think I got a sense of where you're going and what your attempt is here. Definitely big, dramatic, intense rock vibes for sure is where you're going with this. The good and bad news of it. I guess bad news first. Bad news. This particular style of dramatic, almost like, I don't want to call it opera rock, but it's just got this real dramatic sense of it and slower. No placements. Like I haven't seen or heard really anything in the data that sounds like this. The good news is that I can hear great melodic content in here, and I can definitely hear a great high quality rock track. And I think you've got obviously the skills and the talents to be able to deliver something that could be licensable, but you really have to go into the faster, energetic, more aggressive, combative, and maybe just on the edge of your seat energy. So this has got a very kind of heaviness to it. It's dragging a bit in energy. And if you watch TV or just use Sync Match, you're not going to see this kind of really pop up there. So what you would probably find if you uploaded this track is it would find that you've got either a metal sound or a rock sound, that kind of a thing. But when you go onto the app, and if you go into the genre mood, for you, I'd probably check out metal. I think metal is probably the best match for you. Listen to these tracks, and you're going to find, you can even see probably in some of these, that's 96 BPM. It's not super fast. 136 there. You can come down here to see. I don't have the tempos up there yet, but you can see that basically you're going to be a little bit in the faster BPM for sure. And then look at these moods, right? Powerful, angry, dramatic, exciting. Those are kind of the ones that you're going to find that are just getting more and more of the placements. So I would say you basically need to get a little bit of a kind of zoom back out course correction of where do you really want to go in this business. Because if you do want to do sync in terms of full time, and there's two categories. I'm always trying to remind myself. For some of you guys, sync is hey, it'd be once, every so often it'd be cool to get a placement. This is more of a passion, a hobby, it'd be cool. That's great. If you fall into that camp, you probably don't, I don't know if you really necessarily need any advice from me, because it's just keep making your music and throw it out, and maybe one day it'll be the right fit for the right placement, and I hope you do get placements. But for the rest of you that are no, I want to actually take this a little more seriously, I really want this to be a reliable source of income for me, then you really have to make sure that you are modeling your music after where the market is already eating, right? Where the marketplace is already coming to the buffet and dining. You want to be making sure that your music is just as yummy as all that other music that the rest of the clients are coming to eat as well. And so I would just say you want to spend some time for sure listening to a lot of the music. If you're on Sync Match, Hans, I don't know if you are or not, but definitely do some research, one way or another. If you're not going to use the app, just basically do your own research on where you want to find the music. But just spend a lot of time listening to what is getting placed. What does metal music sound like? What are the rock tunes that are sounding like? What is our industry currently releasing? And more importantly, what is it getting placed? I think this applies for all of you guys, whether or not you're doing rock or not. One of the biggest game changers for Sync Match, I think already, is that it's going to basically just immediately help you course correct in terms of you've been maybe going in a certain direction with your music. I mean, I can't tell you guys, it's a bittersweet thing for me. I love that I developed this app, and I'm also really sad that I didn't have it when I first got started, because there's this sense of I wasted so much time in the first couple of years of my career making music that just didn't get placed. And I hate that. I really, 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 really hate that I wasted so much time making music. Don't get me wrong. I got some placements, and I'm really happy and grateful for those. But the arrogance I had and I got something that, my stuff is so unique and original that just, people will just love it just because it's so different. It's young and naive. It's just a young and naive way to think. That's what it is. And the reality of this industry is that we are in a service industry, and we're here to come into a marketplace that is paying us for music, and we have to make sure that we meet them where they're at. Not that they meet us where we're at. That is not how this works. We are not in charge here. We're not the ones dictating the terms. They have the opportunities. They have the exposure. They have the money. They've got the royalties. They've got the sync fees. They've got all of it. We've got the music, very important, but we have to make sure we keep a very humble attitude around all of this kind of stuff. So anyways, little rant over. I just thought that'd be maybe useful for you guys. Yeah, I'm really glad it exists. I just wish I had had this idea and these skill sets a long time ago. So anyways, let's go to the middle here. Is this the middle? Where are we at? How many do we have? Yeah, so 130. So right around the 50s, that would be the middle. So let's go till we find one that we haven't already reviewed. All right, Johnny. Got a track here. Let's take a listen. It's not weird that, oh no, disco's fast. One of these links is not super fast. Cover up. Let's take a listen. What I love about this track is the soundscape. It's a really interesting, unique, creepy, a little bit haunted, maybe even like crime solving sort of a vibe, but definitely like the creepy scariness is kind of like the biggest thing. So yes, definitely you're going in a very, very clear, licensable tension direction, and definitely in the scary horror kind of a thing. Definitely licensable. I've heard music like this, a little bit like this on the Sync Match app, but not a lot of it. But it is worth probably doing an album, of kind of like basically scary Halloween themed tension music, because every so often there's going to be some scenes that need something that's tense but also scary, kind of combining those two things. So that's basically what I'm getting. It's called Cover Up, so maybe you're thinking more of this as a crime solving cue, but for me, I think it was more that high, almost sound like a was it a theremin? How do you say that? That weird instrument that the Beach Boys started using. Theremin? There it is, theremin. Kind of had that kind of creepy, spooky ghost sound to it. I liked it, but it was also there too much. It was like the whole way through, and it felt like the second version was almost like a repeat of this section. So it's like, we need to really either build this up a little bit more, or maybe this needs to be the end of the track. We just kind of come here and boom, that's the end. I didn't feel like we really added much with this last section. And then definitely keep that cool theremin sound in there, but just have it like sort of start off maybe this of like it kind of pans a little bit left to right and then let it go away. And it just does not need to be there the entire way through, because it's in a higher frequency range and it's the same note over and over and over again, and that starts to like wear out the ears a little bit. So your track starts to feel a little bit too repetitive. So you got to make sure it's like less is more. Yeah, theremin from 1928. Thanks, Norm. I did hear kind of an abrupt edit point right here. I wouldn't have an abrupt edit point. I have maybe more of like it almost sounded like a clip or a pop or something like that. So just kind of clean that up a little bit so it's a little bit more smooth sounding. But the edit points definitely are a good idea, obviously, to keep pushing things and moving things forward. You probably could increase the volume overall, the mastering volume of this, 6 dB, 7 dB, something like that. It was a little bit on the quiet side, but not terribly. I think you're close to where you really want to be. But yeah, I just would say, don't do album after album after album after album of this. Maybe one album of this, then move on to a different type of tension music for sure. You don't want to be pigeonholed into the Halloween tension guy. It's probably just not going to be the most fruitful place to get a lot of placements. It's just not where the numbers are. But some, yes, there's definitely some numbers there for sure. All right, Justin, you didn't fill this one out, so I'm not sure if I should give you a review or not. I want to make sure I respect you guys on that. I don't want to just play music if you guys haven't explicitly said yes. So, but let's go to this is Lewis's track. Let's take a listen to Cool Cats. Oh yeah. Man, I like this a lot. This is just really funky. From the get-go, you had my head knobbing. I like this. I just really think this has got some great fun, great attitude to it. It's just well crafted. I think you've got a great talent stack for soul, funk, kind of this vibe. You're going in a very licensable direction. You just need to tweak it a little bit. Okay, so again, spending a lot of time, as I just did, listening to funk, and also you might want to check out some blues. Where's the blues? Yeah, blues. You'll find same thing, kind of similar with a lot of the rock music that I was telling you about. Faster is going to get you more placements and more upbeat. If you can take these skills and this vibe and this great set of skills you've got here and just turn up the BPM, get a little bit more funky, get a little bit more fun, a little bit more energetic and happy and exciting and optimistic, or even sometimes, keep the attitude knob up, you will be in a very licensable direction. Funk and blues, I would say maybe even some soul too. You obviously got some soul kind of going on here. All of those do great on TV. Like funk is probably the biggest one, followed by, what were the three? Funk, blues, and soul. I would say funk, then blues, then soul in that order in terms of the number of tracks that are kind of getting placed. But it's not easy to pull off this very authentic, cool, retro vibe. So keep doing it, but just think about cruising down the street. Think about partying. This has got more of like laying, chilling, relaxing by a pool kind of vibe. Just not a lot of placements for that sort of energy. The slower energy, you're not going to see a lot of that on TV. But the faster, energetic stuff, all day long on advertisements and in TV shows, reality shows, they use this stuff. They eat it up all day long. You would be in a very powerful position if you just basically went to the faster, more upbeat side of things. I think you would be well served to do that. So excellent work, man. Thanks for sharing it with us. All right, so let's go searching to find some more names. But again, I'm looking for ones that aren't highlighted. Brian, got a track from you. We haven't checked out one of yours. Right on, Brian. Thanks for sharing this, man. I guess I have a question for you before, I don't know if you're actually here on the call or not. By the way, guys, you don't have to be here to get these reviews. I just review them and I post them on the platform afterwards. But you kind of have two different directions going on in this track, and I think you got to figure out for yourself where do you want to go, because you've got the synth and then you've got the acoustic guitar. You can go in electronic direction. There's plenty of tracks that are electronic in a variety of directions that are more dance-oriented, EDM-oriented, or even kind of more industrial sounding. So you can go in that direction if you want to, but you also got this acoustic guitar. But what doesn't work, and what I have not heard yet in any of the tracks I've been putting on the app, is those two things put together. Like I don't think I've heard ever an electronic foundational track with acoustic guitar on top of it. Those two are just mismatched. They just don't work together. So I think you got to decide which direction is most compelling to you. Maybe right now, maybe at some point you go in either one. Because you got to make sure, like I said, if you really want to stack up the odds of getting placements, you need to fall into some of the genres, the pre-established genres and kind of templates and sounds that do fly off the shelf. So electronic, again, there's electro pop. There's there even were a couple of experimental, odd, weird electronic tracks in there. But again, like 2 out of the almost 2,000 tracks that we basically are putting on the app. So I wouldn't go in experimental places. I wouldn't go into like weird out there stuff. I would really keep it more down the middle of very accessible, and again, mid to up tempo, very energetic, and fall in exactly into one of the pre-established kind of grooves. It's almost like we are pioneers here, and we're trying to go out to the West. And you have two choices. You can basically go off into the wilderness by yourself, or you can basically keep your wagon on the pre-established tracks that previous wagons on their wheels have already kind of carved out in front of you. The smart money says stay right on those tracks. Why would we want to go take a gamble and a chance going off into the wilderness, breaking our wheels on the rocks, when it's like we've already got a road in front of us. We've already got wheel tracks kind of firmly established in terms of this works, this gets placements, this is exactly what clients are eating up and using all day long. That's what I want you guys to basically pay attention to and potentially figure out how you want to fit into it. So, but I think you just got some decisions to make in terms of where you want to go. And then once you go down that road, and maybe we do some more reviews for you, we can kind of give you some better feedback on where you can kind of improve things. But thank you for submitting, man. All right. Wow, we're already at the top there. I thought we had some more. So, all right. Where are we at? Elena, haven't reviewed yours yet? I know we've done some of your tracks in other places on our platform, but let's take a listen. Left of Me.
Can't you see dust and faded dreams? Can't you see what's left of me? And can't you hear the crowds just disappear? Can't you see what's left of me? Feel the layers that
Beautiful music, Elena. Sometimes just get wrapped up and captured by a track that I'm listening to, and yours definitely did that to me. Obviously, it's the vocals. There's a lot of that that just kind of like resonates immediately of like, ooh, okay, cool voice, interesting lyrics. I kind of want to find out what's happening with this track. So really, really well done. There's kind of an element of this that for sure could be a trailer track, but it also, to me, sounds like it might work as well as a sort of more epic pop tune, because if you're going to go into the trailer world, I do think you need to bring up even more intensity and even make this even bigger and more impactful, because the trailer world just demands things to be on 12 out of 10. You just have to go to these unbelievably ridiculous heights. I feel like this is like at a 6 out of 10 in intensity. So it just needs probably more production value, just more elements added to it, and maybe just a little bit more aggression, I think, in a lot of the elements and a lot of things you're doing. It could be in some compressing with what you're doing, but it also could be in the samples that you're using. I did have a couple of small notes. Like one was I felt like the piano was a little bit thin in the beginning. Maybe you could just thicken that out, give it a little more low end, and maybe even a bit more, cathedral big reverb, just to let that kind of take up more space in the mix. It just felt a little thin. Maybe even a little bit with the vocals as well. Maybe they could have they had great reverb, but even a little bit more, because there's not much happening in the beginning, and I think it's like you have a lot of empty space, and I feel like this track wants to be big. It just wants to be this big epic track, but right now it's kind of missing some maybe frequency information. At least that's how it would sound like to me in my studio here. So that's just for whatever it's worth. But yeah, I think you guys are going in a very, very great direction. There was one yell in the beginning here, felt a little out of tune, so I'd maybe retract that first yell. These at the end were great though. Like, we were just going up here. Love that. I think it was though. Something in there was a little bit off for me, so I don't know, it just didn't feel right. But I don't know, that could be just a quick little tweak or something that you do to kind of, it might have been very beginning where his pitch left a little bit, but like as that went on, it was like, wow, this is a really cool. Love that, just the big belting out and kind of the little scratchiness, the hoarseness of his voice. So very, very licensable, very, very strong direction for sure to keep going in. So if this is a vocalist, you can continue to work on it, then keep going for it. I would definitely say this is going to be something that could be very valuable for you. If any of you guys find a high quality vocalist that, I don't know, Elena, you're here, if this vocalist recorded himself or did you record him? But if you can find a vocalist that can record themselves in their own home studio and they're professional and they get things to you on time and they're fun to work with and they're easy to work with, man, hold on to them with two hands and buy them ice cream cones every single day, because they are so hard to come by, and it's so hard to find artists and vocalists, particularly without egos and with their own recording studio. Okay, you edited it. Yeah, that's okay. So recorded and edited it. Oh, maybe he edited and recorded it. Cool. Yeah, and even editing skills. Oh my gosh, like forget about it. So hold on to this guy. This is definitely somebody you want to keep working with. So you edited till it's huge. Okay, cool. So you did some collaboration there. But yeah, keep going in this direction. It works. It's big. It's epic. I would have you look at epic pop. So if you go to the pop world, where was the pop? I do know my alphabet, right? Okay, pop. And then you can also check it and filter by mood. Now I just added that. But if you go to dramatic, that would be a good one for you to check out. Or if you go to maybe even dark, that's kind of a darker tune you guys put out. So epic pop. What's really cool about this, you click on this, not only do you get this one track that is placed, you get the entire album. Like, you're going to basically pop up this album that has all the epic pop from, which library is it from? That's from Extreme Music. So obviously you can't get better really in our industry for getting source material that works and it's high quality. So I would strongly encourage you to check out some of that and think about maybe going in kind of an epic pop direction. I don't know, maybe not, but I think there could be some opportunities for you guys to not only make trailer music, but make some epic pop music. So I've got a connection issue here. I don't know. You guys can still see and hear me, right? Yeah. I don't know what is causing this, if my internet's going down or if this is just Google Sheets. Let me see. Really odd. Trying to connect. Can't connect. Can I still click on something though? Does it matter? I guess it doesn't matter if I can still click on some stuff. Don't know what happened there. All right. So, Justin, you didn't give me the permission though, so I don't want to do that. Sorry. Where are we at? Matthew. Let's check out your disco tune here. Is extreme music too big for epic pop? I don't know what you mean by that. We just had one of our Sync Match members get accepted by Extreme Music literally 2 weeks ago. So not too big for us. They're taking on composers. If you got high quality music, if you approach them the right way. So if that's what you're asking, nope, they're not too big for us. Nope, they accept composers and producers. All right, let's take out this one.
Oh, it's a cozy time, looking at all the lights, and it feels cold outside. For the season I like, with the ones you love, Make it last forever. We are all here. Take it slow, December. Everyone is near. Oh, in a snow globe, a place we all know. Trees glow, found hope. Feel love, welcome home. The best time, curl love, with ones you can't help but love. I smell the cinnamon, snowing and a fireplace. Hope to see you there. Make it last forever. We are all here. Take it slow, December. Everyone is near. Oh, in a snow globe, a place we all know. Trees glow, found hope. Feel love, welcome home.
A really, really cool track. Again, another one of these that just kind of pulled me in and I couldn't stop listening to it. Those harmonies, those great vocoder harmonies. Man, that's such a great, I love this. I'm just a sucker for harmonies, and vocoder harmonies I'm even more of a sucker for. And I think it's really an interesting approach you have here in terms of blending folk with this like Daft Punk, vocoder vocal quality. It works. It really does work. You wouldn't think those two things would work, but it's really cool. I hope you're actually just putting your music out on the internet too. Just Matthew, this is great. I could definitely become a fan of what you're doing here. So I think it's just beautifully written, lyrics, melodies, all that good stuff. I guess the direction I would kind of encourage you to go in is just kind of the same as I've been saying for a lot of the other members, is get a little bit more on the upbeat side of things. Think about like a danceable folk tune, and just almost like four on the floor, kind of that mid up-tempo direction. Go in that direction for sure. I would say go into, you're kind of like indie folk. That's kind of like where I would put you. And I think I've definitely heard a lot of that kind of music in the data in terms of what's getting placed. It's tricky. It's like you're in an interesting place where you would be sort of basically pitched as an artist with a library. So you want to do two things at once. You want to basically fit in to what's happening in the folk world. For sure, go check out folk. That's kind of like the big thing. You would want to go to, where's folk? Yeah, folk is where you want to go listen to a lot of music, kind of hear what's happening, what vibes are being introduced, what lyrical themes, how fast are they, how energetic are they. Check out all that kind of stuff for sure. And then you basically want to bring your beautiful vocal and don't forget that vocoder, bring that vocoder along with it into the mix to try to kind of serve the industry with this indie music, but definitely bring your own original artist take to it. I would say you've got something very unique and valuable that you kind of don't want to get pigeonholed as a sort of like, just an indie or a folk production music library composer, but really more an artist that has music that would be useful for a production music library. So I would say just keep doing what you're doing here with some extra listening to the tracks that do get placed. So you can kind of just course correct a bit. There was a little bit of kind of the vocals, a little bit of distortion happening a little bit throughout the track. It's like you might just need to turn down your levels, your meters a little bit. A little bit of over compression, that kind of squashing effect came in. The vocals were very loud and present, which I loved, but sometimes, especially around here in the last chorus, when the rest of the music got loud too, it just got a little bit overwhelming. So just kind of double check on those levels. Very easy fixes though, nothing really huge. Yeah, and then definitely you want to kind of, if you want it to really be steered towards sync, just make sure your vocals and the lyrics rather are really talking about things that could be placed on TV. And you'll learn that obviously by listening to a lot of the music that we have on the app and checking out what actually is getting placed and what lyrical themes are. So this is obviously a little bit more of a Christmas oriented one. Not a bad idea, but Christmas isn't obviously in play throughout the year. So just be aware of that you might have some limited access to the marketplace. So, and Murka, this will be the last track we do today. Thank you guys so much for hanging with me and let me check out your tracks. Let's take a listen to Suspended Heart. Just want to point out how great this mix is, okay? Great music, we'll have more notes about it, but just notice, because this is minimal, this is tension, notice how this isn't a bright mix, right? Compared to some of the other tracks we were listening to, this is a very subdued, a little bit under the surface kind of a mix, even though it has a higher piano lead and all that good stuff. Excellent mixing and sort of arrangement here, Murka. Excellent work here. Very, very licensable, going in a great direction, perfectly, sort of structured here with the edit points and the builds. And again, the mix not being too bright and shiny and overwhelming. Only have one note for you. Very, very quick review for you. You had this great melody. Dun, 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 dun. Problem with it is it just repeated every bar, right? Bum, 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 bum. There's only so many times you can hear that before you're like, we're not really going far. Even though you do have new elements, new things kind of coming in here, it definitely makes a track feel repetitive. So just extend your melody twice as long. What I kept on wanting to hear, which just a suggestion, do whatever you want, but bum, 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 whatever you want to do, just extend it twice as long so we're not going back to the same four notes essentially over and over and over and over again. This is just kind of one of these easy tips you guys could certainly build into whatever you guys are producing is if your track feels repetitive or you're not sure maybe if it feels repetitive, if your chord progression basically repeats every single bar, every single, I guess, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is just 2 bars long. If you have a progression that's repeating every 2 bars, chances are it probably will get very repetitive too quickly. So you want to at least extend out your full chord progression, your full melody, 4 bars, or sometimes even up to 8 bars, like really, really extend it out. So that way you're basically listening to this 4-bar great melody, move it along, then repeat it, and that's when you can add the next thing. And so we don't feel like we're just kind of stuck on a treadmill listening to the same thing over and over again. So that was the only thing that this track was suffering from, was a little bit of repetitiveness. But across, other than that, like extremely licensable. Yes, this gets placed all day long in the tension department for sure. This is certainly going to be great for a variety of drama shows. Definitely would use this kind of a thing. Maybe some reality, but it's really going to be more of like a documentary. Maybe even kind of like news-oriented shows sometimes could use this kind of thing, but really you're going to see drama use this in a variety of other types of TV shows. So really excellent work. And it looks like I'm still trying to connect here. Don't know what happened here. So, well, that's what I got for you guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys hanging with me, bearing with me for this very last minute schedule of our Sync Focus call. Sorry about that. We will be doing our mastermind group, of course, in the middle of the month. So stay tuned for that. I will give you guys far more notice than I did for this one. So we will definitely come back and hang. Those are usually on Saturdays in the middle of the month. So we'll definitely make sure we do that. And yeah, keep at it. Hopefully we see more and more tracks get uploaded here to the progress chart in July so that we can do some more reviews at the beginning of August. And congrats to all of you guys that have stuck with it, at least half of the year. That's no easy thing. As you can see, you probably noticed a lot of the empty rows and cells that are on the sheet. Many people don't, as you guys can tell. So it's a promise of this industry. It's sort of the struggle of it, but it's also the encouraging part about it is that if you can be one of the few to stick with this thing, again, keeping your goals very small and manageable, you can find some amazing results in this business. And because most people can't, for a variety of reasons, not to be judgmental, but it's just a real reality. Most people cannot stick with something for longer than 6 months or a year. Because of that, you've got some job security, right? Because you're going to be one of the few people that can make it through this pain, to keep on moving forward, to keep on producing your music. So if you've made it thus far, keep at it. Big high five to you here. Big pat on the back. Keep going. Hopefully you can continue on with us with this Sync Focus thing. And again, hopefully I made that point clear. I don't want to constantly be shilling my own app and talking about it endlessly, but it is one of these things that like it will make a difference for you. I guarantee it will. And if it doesn't, get a refund, okay? Like don't stick around if it's not making a difference for you. But I can't imagine anybody pursuing our career, our industry at all without using data like this, without getting visibility on what gets placed and how they can kind of structure their music. Again, had I had this app in 2008 when I first got started, I would have approached this business completely differently, knowing what gets placed. I just had no real information or insight as to what did. Just had my best guesses, occasionally watched the TV show, and I was like, all right, well, just move forward with that data. But what a poor version, what a small little capture of data that I had to make any meaningful assumptions about what I should be doing with my music. Those days are over. You don't have to make those assumptions anymore. You can actually learn for yourself what is actually getting placed. And again, if you want to turn this into a serious form of income, I'd highly encourage you check out what SyncMatch has to offer. So thank you guys so much, and we will see you guys here real soon when we do our next live stream or live video, whatever that happens to be. So you guys have a fantastic rest of your day.